Bayern could benefit from Barca finances. Dortmund lineup, Sancho replacement, Real squeeze through. Leicester could lose their star man, and a transfer roundup all coming up in the next few minutes. As I am your host, Matt Froelich, you with the OneFootballers, and this is the Daily News. First off, and apparently Bayern Munich could be the main beneficiaries of Barcelona's financial crisis. I know you're thinking, how on earth does that make sense, Matt? In the shape of Frankie de Jong. That's how it makes sense. Obviously, they only just signed the Dutch wonder kid. Is he a wonder kid anymore? World-class midfielder from Ajax last summer, and he spent a year and a bit doing a really good job in the middle of the park. But of course, with Barcelona's current wage structure and a massive need of a reboot, and apparently the club's finances not in the best place, they might need to sell some players. Bayern Munich could swoop in and make an offer. There are only a select few players at Barcelona who they would be willing to sell, and unfortunately, none of those players are the same ones that are worth anything and the ones they want to keep. Of course, they don't want to lose the likes of ter Stegen. They don't want to lose the likes of Messi, De Jong, Griezmann, Ansu Fati. All these guys, the ones that are actually worth anything, are the ones that are more than likely to be poached if Barcelona are going to have to sell for a cheaper price. Personally, I think this story is way out there. Way out there. There's no way that they'd be losing De Jong over anyone, even if they are in a bit of financial stress, as we said. I honestly think Messi is more likely to leave before Frankie de Jong does. And anyway, if he does leave and goes to Bayern Munich, that will literally be unfair. That would make them not only the greatest team of last season, and possibly this season, and possibly the next season, and possibly all seasons going from the next decade or so. They have such an unbelievably strong squad to Bayern, and on top of this, they've got so many young talents who are coming through to replace the older ones and continue their dominance, not only in the Bundesliga, but in the Champions League as well. And like I said, it would just, you imagine, a midfield three of De Jong, Goretzka and Kimmich. Yeah, that leaves them without a number 10, but honestly, the way they attack, it really doesn't matter. Their left back sometimes their best attacker in Alphonso Davies, who actually made a return to the team last night in the Champions League. But I'm going to hold off on the Champions League roundup for just a little bit and move on to Bayern's rivals Dortmund, who are apparently still planning on losing Jadon Sancho. I mean, after all the talk in the summer, it is rather inevitable. Yes, he's still waiting for a goal this season, and yes, Manchester United aren't exactly in the shape to go ahead and throw 100+ million at Dortmund, but somehow, some way, they will just find a way to do it. Once they've done this, and honestly at this point it is inevitable that Sancho will leave Dortmund and move to Manchester United, probably not in January, probably next summer, they need to find a replacement, and this is coming in the shape of Donyell Malen. Now, for those of you who don't know, he was actually at Arsenal for a few years and Ajax, but after being released at youth level has found himself at PSV, where he made a name for himself last season, scoring 5 times in one game as they won 5-0. Injuries did blight the rest of his campaign in the 1920 season, but he's back at it again this season and showing real potential. He's a quick, nimble forward who could play all across the front line, and basically is what Sancho is to an attacking midfielder, what Malen is to a striker. They can both play in each other's positions, just not quite as well. I think with Erling Haaland up front and Malen coming in off the left-hand side, he could be another fantastic addition to this quick, young Dortmund attack. He may not necessarily have the skill on the ball as the likes of Torgan Hazard and the likes of Marco Reus, Julian Brandt, but when it comes to finishing ability, not quite up there with Haaland, but definitely got potential. Plus, on top of all of this, he may be one of those signings that Dortmund make where he doesn't actually cost that much. He does have a contract running for the next 4 years, meaning they're not going to accept anything less than his 25 million euro value, but I can't see PSV necessarily holding out for much more. If they manage to get over like 35-40 for him, that actually might be a bit too much. But moving on to the Champions League, I promised it, I'm delivering it, just like Real Madrid did. They just managed to squeeze through from the group stage and avoid being knocked out at this point in the competition for the first time in their history. They've made it through to the knockout rounds for the last 25 seasons in a row, back to the mid-90s where they didn't actually qualify for the European competition. They managed to beat Gladbach 2-0, who themselves went through because Inter Milan and Shakhtar could not pick up a win. Those two drew, meaning they are out of Champions League. Shakhtar fall into the Europa, where Inter Milan are out altogether. I mean, this was supposed to be the Antonio Conte revolution. They spent loads of money on players. They've got this player from different leagues. They've got the old ones, the new ones, the young ones. They're putting together some sort of perfect mix of Antonio Conte players. And they've still not managed to make it through to the knockout round for the 3rd season in a row. If he doesn't win the Serie A title, there's big questions over him, never mind him having to go at the board like he did at the end of last season when they failed to win the Europa League. Elsewhere on the evening, Sergio Aguero made a goal-scoring comeback for Manchester City as they ran out 3-0 winners, and Liverpool, Mohamed Salah specifically, became Liverpool's all-time record goal scorer in the Champions League with his 20th goal. Unfortunately though, it was a disappointing draw against Midtjylland. Moving on then, and to some transfer news from the Premier League and Leicester City, where midfielder Youri Tielemans could be heading for some new, greener pastures. That is according to his agent, that said that he wants to play at the top level and win the trophies, which you can only really do at a top club. This isn't exactly what Leicester are going to want to hear. I mean, it's not as bad as Mino Raiola coming out and talking about Paul Pogba, saying that he wants to leave the club and his time at the club is over, this, that and the other. But even so, way to go and insult your client's club by saying they're not a top club, they're not going to win trophies. That may be true, but Leicester are still having a pretty good season. If they can get into the Champions League, get all the money that brings, and then form a team that consistently gets into the Champions League and challenges for some domestic trophies as well, why can't Tielemans win anything there? Yes, of course, he could move to any other big club and have more of a chance of winning trophies, but you could say that about every other player. So in some way, this isn't actually massive news. Anyway, Tielemans, since joining Leicester after a loan spell and then permanently in the summer of 2019, has been brilliant. The 23-year-old is definitely one of the most accomplished midfielders in the Premier League, and you don't only see it at club level, but at international level as well with Belgium. This Belgium generation is an unbelievably talented one, so the fact that he gets into the squad, into the starting 11 with regular ease just shows how much of a good player he is. At Leicester, there are a fair few players that they wouldn't want to lose, including Dennis Praet, Jamie Vardy, James Maddison, Pereira. I think Soyuncu's brilliant, so is Castagna, but honestly, out of all of them, I'd say that Tielemans is up there with Ndidi as players that they definitely do not want to lose. The only positive is they're an English club with a very good young player, so they could probably charge through the roof for him. Lastly then, we come to a quick roundup of the rest of the day's news that you might have missed. And Brazilian striker Hulk is willing to end his 4-year stay in China with Shanghai SIPG and take a 90% wage cut to join Wolves. Elsewhere, and Patrick Vieira's latest job after being sacked from Nice could be back in the MLS, this time with Toronto FC. Benfica are sending back their defender Jean-Clair to Barcelona after the promises of his loan spell were not fulfilled. And lastly but not least, some sad news again, because it's 2020 and that 1982 Italian World Cup winner Paolo Rossi died this morning. He became legendary after this tournament for scoring a hat-trick against Brazil and leading his side to the World Cup trophy. To top it all off, the former Juve striker managed to win the Ballon d'Or at the end of the year as well. That's all from me then. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you check out everything else we've got going on OneFootball, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.